Hi, my name is Julia. In today's course, we are going to address how to eliminate low back pain and gain flexibility into these lower limbs of ours. And what we'll do is we'll begin by seated in a comfortable seat, cross-legged, or maybe the bottoms of the feet together. And what we want to do is we want to ground and root into our seat first so that we can soften the upper body so that we can centralize on all of this openness here in our hips and lower back. Then we're going to totally convert into a nice downward dog. Take your time, maybe move into the hips as you get there. Plant the hands down, spread the fingers wide, maybe move and go about your day in a way that feels good and organic to you. And we'll come into a downward dog, maybe taking a pit stop into your child's pose first. As you slowly lift the hips, relax the head and neck. Let it all go. Take some deep inhales and exhales here. Spread open the chest. And then push into the hips and feel this nice opening and stretch on the back of your hamstrings. We're going to convert and transfer into our lizard pose. So however you like to get there, and lizard pose is just bringing one of your feet up into the air, squaring off the hip, and then bringing it outside your hands. So if you lifted your right foot up, you can bring it outside the right. If you lifted your left, you can bring it outside the left, and allow the hips to sink and settle here. Lift the chest and make sure that you keep that same alignment of your forehead, top of head, neck, shoulders, all in one line. So you might feel this nice shift into your hips where you're opening it up, and then try to pull it in together so that you hug your knee into your shoulder and your shoulder pulls back into your knee. So you're lifted here, and you might feel this nice organic stretch on the left side, and you might feel constriction on the right. When you're ready, we can lower this left knee and untuck the toe. That might feel relieving, and you can tint out the fingers and maybe reach this right arm up. Reaching back and breathing into this lower back. So notice the difference between sinking and engaging. And so what happens is naturally is this leg wants to move in towards the middle, and then exhale, weave that hand back down. And plant the hands, hold into your lizard pose. Maybe open onto the pinky side edge of your right foot if that feels good. Breathe. Lift the chest and heart. And you might feel this really nice big opening into this hip flexor. And see if you can level down this left hip. When you're ready to exit, but be sure to wait until you feel and witness the opening of your body, like a Goldilocks effect. Maybe what you thought was initially really tight, you can now sink a little deeper into. But when you're ready to transition, you can slowly roll back onto the heel of your hands and onto the heel of your foot, widening out all of your toes and fingers, and then pulling the knee into your shoulder, coming back up into your left knee, lifting it away from the mat and shifting forward and back. Then drop the head and neck, reach that right foot back out and up and place it down to meet its partner, widening out your hands, widening out your feet, downward dog. Lift the heels, exhale the heels. Take a moment. Notice if your right hip feels a little bit more open, totally natural. Shake your head yes, shake your head no. Remove the tongue away from the roof of your mouth, unlock your jaw, walk your hands back together if you need, and your feet back together. As you inhale, reach that right heel back out and up. Square the hips, so notice if this is opening or if this is lowering. Try to keep the hips even. Put equal weight into your wrists and shoulders, and then exhale this left foot outside of the left hand. Maybe scoot your right foot back and then reach the upper body up. Try to envision a straight line all the way from the crown of the head down to the right heel. Allow the hips to sink. Maybe untuck this right back foot and come down onto the top meaty fleshy part of your right knee. Maybe tint the fingers up, moving into that hip space on the left side. Same things. So if this feels good and open and you're ready to explore deeper spaces, You can tent this right finger out a little bit more and then reach this left hand, up towards the ceiling, soften the shoulders. Maybe you cactus the arm too. And then notice if you come a little bit more twist, this left knee wants to come in, and then walk your hands back in through center. And then you can begin to open up this left hip by coming onto the pinky razor side edge. Go to your level of comfort. Don't try to push it where there's any type of pain, heating pain, or noticing where you go to your limit where you stop breathing. And that is your point. And then breathe into that space by deeply inhaling through the chest and down towards the belly, and then towards the hips wherever there's tightness. See if you can soften. When you're ready to transition, you can slowly roll back on towards the arch side of your left. Bring the left knee in towards the shoulder like you did before. Bend the elbows back. Tuck the back right toes and lift up into the hips, leveling it out. You're here in your lizard. Drop the head and neck. Maybe square this left foot out enough before it meets its partner, the right. Parallel the feet. Maybe widen out your hands, lift the heels up, drop the shoulders, feel a nice extension in your downward dog, then roll forward onto your hands and knees and sit back into a nice posture. Maybe your feet can come together and your glutes can come to your heels, but if this is really tight on your quads, you can come over and sit into a nice gentle seat and then reach the feet out. We're just gonna hold here for a moment. Instead of rolling back onto our backs and doing happy baby, I invite you to maybe rock up and down your spine to where you can come and cross your legs, come into a forward fold, widen out your feet, and drop the hips. So this is very similar to being on your back in happy baby. You're just now using the weight of your upper body torso to push the hips towards your ankles and your calves, and then also using the elbows to widen out the knees. Try to gravitate the tailbone down towards the floor and the head, crown of head, up towards the ceiling. See if you can straighten and flatten your back. Notice the difference of your cat-cow-like shapes, and then come to a nice neutral spine. If this at any point feels uncomfortable, maybe you begin to slowly shift into one hip and then the other, and then hold. Find your space and see how your body adjusts to just giving it attention, patience, and time. If you're rolling onto the arch, much like myself, maybe you make these small minor adjustments to roll onto the pinky side edge. And then as you feel open, you can slowly walk your hands back behind you and sit your hips down. Close those knees like a book. Maybe windshield wiper the toes back and forth. Maybe bring your knees to the width of the mat and allow them to roll left and right. You might observe that there's this meaty part right here where you have the maximus, the medius, and the minimus, and then this hip area. So a lot of times when people have lower back pain, it's because everything is wrapping into this big, huge epicenter universe of connection. So if you think about it as you're windshield wipering your legs, you might feel these little shifts. I'm not doing anything. My bones are just literally moving up and down the piriformis. To access it a little more deeply, you can elongate your left leg. You can bend into the right knee. So just envision that you were in your lizard pose here before, with your arms bent and your right knee out towards the side of your shoulder. And notice how my back is hollowing out. For me to protect my lower back, I can breathe in, sit up straight, twist this left or right ankle in towards my left, and then give myself a little hug. You can also feel it on the back outside of your hips if you breathe into that space by lifting the chest And then when you feel good and ready, you can readjust your hands to the inside of the arch, reach your right hand back behind you, and take some big, nice liberal circles onto the back part of your piriformis. And you may not recognize it at first, but it feels like this little cartilage piece, almost like a little knob that's in the back part of your glute. And so a lot of people have very tight piriformis areas, and I will say it's because we're sitting, we're typing, we're driving, maybe we're standing. So you don't get a lot of hip flexion, which then causes your lower back to tighten, and you don't feel a lot of mobility here in this space. And then that affects your middle, your upper, you cause your shoulders to tighten. Everything feels just compact. So yoga is about releasing all of that. So make sure that you feel good and open, breathing into that hip space, making and creating more space for flexibility. And you might notice that you can get into some of your warriors or your other postures a little bit more deeply after you begin to roll out this central epicenter of your glute. And why this is also very important, what I recommend is to pair this type of practice or this type of motion with high impact activities. If you like to run or even walking, or if you like to dance, or if you like to swim, if you have a lot of things that kind of hit this heel a lot and you feel like this compounds into your hips, open up the hips by making these nice big liberal circles and taking the left hand back behind, and not only doing the hula hoops, but going up and back so that you can get into that area and space. Be sure to flex your toes back towards the knee that you have a bend in, and do the same thing that you did on the other. So if you make sure to breathe into this space and lift your chest and pull the knee in towards your chest. Be sure to do that on this side too, as you continue to do the hula hoop hips and get some nice liberal movement. As we release, we'll be able to windshield wiper the feet and prepare for a reverse tabletop. This is one of my favorite poses, and I'll tell you why. After all of this engagement, so you can even see like the thighs pull away and soften. You can begin to understand that when we bring the heels towards our glutes, walk our hands back towards the corner of our mat and bend into the elbows back towards the wall. When we lift our hips, it just feels like all of that energy and all that tightness has this freedom to move up and down the hips and down the lower spine. You can lift the toes up. Just make sure that you're not moving the head and neck. You can even windshield wiper the feet, getting into the lower back, a little nice twist. You can come really deeply, feeling it into the rotator cuff to where the glutes want to come towards the heels, and even maybe walking your feet closer to your hips so that you can lift up onto your toes, get into the nice parts of your hamstring and your quadriceps. You can even lift the quadriceps away. And then slowly lower tailbone meets the ground first, and then maybe hold here and use your tailbone as this anchor so that you can pull your fingers toward your hips, pushing the back body and then lowering the chin and just kind of maybe shimmying here before you slowly lift yourself up. Whew, that feels so good. Maybe make a little bit of some micro movements before we get into a little twist. You can come into a diamond, and we'll slowly just bring this right arm across, twisting. Be sure not to dump into this side. Lift up. You're only twisting your upper body. Your lower body is good and stable. You could feel it on this outside of the rib cage. And then we'll inhale back through center, a little micro opposite twist, and then allow yourself to twist deeply by bringing your left shoulder across, looking over your right, noticing when you dump, and then when you push the ground away, you should feel it in this back shoulder part. And then inhale back through center, a little small counter micro twist, and we'll set up for our cow face pose. So what you'll want to do is bend the right knee, bring the shin parallel to the front of your mat, and this is completely based off of the way you're built, your anatomy is built. And just remember that everybody's body is built differently. So flex the right toes back towards the knees, and then if you're able to stack the knees onto one another, this is where we are number one. If this feels a little confrontational, you can bring this right knee in a little bit more and just bring this over towards the side. If you have very mobile hips and knees and you're not pushing yourself too far, you can literally wrap yourself and bring the heels of your feet towards the hips. The key to this posture is you want both hips to be level onto the ground. So there's no lifting like so or lifting like so. You want to make sure that you feel good and grounded and that the pinky side edges of your feet are down onto the mat. If you are in any of the prior postures, aka shins parallel to the front, or just this maybe little twist here, we'll want to integrate whichever knee is stacked on top, the opposite arm to lift. So you can lift the right arm up, exhale, pat yourself on the back, settle the shoulder back into its socket, pull the belly button in, breathe into that balloon. That's the lower back, middle back, upper back, so that everything feels straight and strong. And then you'll take your left hand, maybe reach it out, thumb pointing down towards the floor, and see if you can interlace or touch your fingers. The concept here is that a lot of people hunch over. We want to lift first. Excuse my hair. And then, as you're here, maybe if you feel good and spry, you hinge at the hip rather than the chest. So rather than this dumping, which puts pressure onto this outside left shoulder, you'll want to start to hinge, keeping your back straight, softening where you can soften, flexing those toes back towards the knees. Hold here. See if you can soften the shoulders and the hips. Seeing if your glutes are firing up. Maybe they feel a little bit different since we did that piriformis activation. And then slowly, gently unwind. Woo! Roll those shoulders maybe back and forth, up towards the ears, forward maybe backwards. Maybe reach back behind you, lift the chest, elbows come closer together. Do whatever feels good. This is your practice, your expression. And then we'll slowly unwind the legs, shake it out, windshield wiper. If it feels good to do another variation of that opposite tabletop, do that. And then we'll get into the left side. Bend the left knee, stack the right over the left. And do not worry if one side feels different than the other. We have this ability to pronate, which means if you have an injury, our body wants to self-preservate and protect ourselves from hurting it deeper. So we'll dump into one hip or one knee more than the other. And so just being aware of these little zigzag body compositions. So if your right hip is speaking a lot and you can't stack your knees, then you can just elongate this left and then bring this right across, or you can bring this right leg over this bent in the left knee and left ankle. But just make sure you square the hips and that both hip bones and glute bones are touching the mat. So since we had the right come across, we're gonna inhale the left arm up, pat yourself on the back. If it feels good to make a pit stop by giving yourself a deeper stretch with this nice bicep tricep, that's always a great option. Excuse me for not doing that on the prior. Take what you need. And then you can reach back the right arm. And I'm sorry if you can see, my hands can't touch. And that's not to be anything ashamed about. We make little minor adjustments as we go. It's just taking the time and space to make these purposeful practices so that we can learn more about our bodies. Same thing that we did on the opposite side. If your legs are stacked or if they're crossed in full cow face, then you can inhale, lift the chest, soften the shoulders. Whew, that feels confrontational. And then begin to hinge at the hip. Notice your point where you stop breathing. And breathe into the belly and into the hip space so that you can elongate this lower back, preventing any pain in the future. So we want to address the pain that we might currently have. And we also want to set you up with tools so that you can gain flexibility and address the ways that you can prevent any type of lower back pain in the future. Inhale, breathe into that lower back bubble, that I like to call it balloon, and then inhale, slowly come back up. Oh, release the arms. Give yourself some nice shoulder rolls. Maybe cactus out the arms if that feels good. Elbows getting closer together. And then slowly unwind the legs. Be careful on the knees and the hips. Ooh, windshield wiper, those toes left and right. And then take whatever tabletop reverse you need. And then when you're ready, we'll meet back into that comfortable seat that we started. If you had a cross in your leg, maybe do the opposite, the counterintuitive one. And then allow the hips to settle in, shoulders stack over hips, maybe hands come to knees. Allow yourself to rest and to just regain that breath and composure. Thank you so much for joining me here on your mat. I hope that it has gifted you with more range of mobility and the idea of self-acknowledgement of how to prevent any type of lower back issues in the future.
We at Wellness Plus specialize in all things health and wellness, ranging from yoga and fitness to massage and ASMR. Whether you are looking to target specific areas of tension or want to enhance your general self-care routine, we provide the tools you need to feel better, look better, and live better. We have courses for every level, whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro. Our courses provide a wide range in difficulty to accommodate your evolving flow.
Welcome back to Yoga with Jess. We are going to break down some really essential postures.
We are going to rock out with some of the most essential ab exercises that you need to have the abs that you've always dreamed of.
I've blended techniques to help you connect with students, and you can be a rock star teacher.
Wellness Plus is available on your phone, tablet, or TV. Join Wellness Plus today and get your first 7 days free.